Today, Rose Namajunas continues to spread her roots at 125 pounds. And what about Drew Dober, whose face ended up looking like a jigsaw victim at the hands of John Silva? And what about Juicy J? What about Juicy J, who goes out there, puts on a really, really good fight, stood right there in the pocket, and did his thing against everything that I predicted? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it. We right back with it. It's your boy Matt. We here to go over UFC Denver. It went down on Saturday night at the Ball Arena, home of the Denver Nuggets there in Denver, Colorado. Where in the main event, Rose Namajunas goes out there and defeats last-minute replacement for Maycee Barber, Tracy Cortez. So, dude, this fight pretty much went exactly how I thought it was going to. It's how I predicted it to go, in a sense. In my pre-fight video, I had said that, at the end of the day, I feel that there's a certain way you want Rose Namajunas to fight. You're expecting a certain type of action. You're expecting a certain type of intensity for Rose Namajunas that really... she only had that against certain women in certain circumstances. When all the chips were down, everything was on the line. Rose Namajunas, she goes to that place. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that dark place. Maybe if you Rose, it's that light place. But either way, it's a place. And you're going to get that like from Rose against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Zhang Wei Li. Fighters of that caliber, of that ilk, if you will. But when you're talking about Tracy Cortez took this fight on short notice. She replaced Maycee Barber. They had some sort of an illness. She had to pull out. Tracy Cortez was supposed to be fighting next week, if I'm not mistaken, this week, against, if I'm not mistaken, Miranda Maverick. I'm not sure about that. Way different caliber of fighter, way different level, right? She came in short notice. Now, to her, as far as a pro in her column, her cardio looked tremendous. She didn't really look like she got tired, even though they're fighting at altitude there in Denver. She was there as far as the cardio from round 1 all the way to round 5. But it's a tall task, it's a tall order to step in there against a former 2-time champion and one of the female GOATs being Rose Namajunas. It's just tough, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said in my pre-fight video, there's levels to this, and Rose showed why she's levels above Tracy Cortez. Now, shout out to Tracy Cortez. She tried to bring the fire. She tried to bring the heat in round 5. She had a couple of moments in other rounds, but for the most part, Rose Namajunas just dismantled her. You know what I'm saying? Had a few, little bit of ground action from Rose, you know what I'm saying? Little bit of grappling, a little bit of top control. But nevertheless, man, Rose moves on. When questioned about it, Rose says she wants a shot at the belt. You know what I'm saying? She didn't really say she wants to jump back in there. She's willing to set out. She also said that she wouldn't mind having a BMF title fight. Interesting. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure who she could fight in that instance, but nevertheless, bro, whatever. If that's what we gonna do with BMF titles, I'm down. You know what I'm saying? Outside of that, though, I tell you a fight that I would really be interested in seeing as I'm watching this play out. Because the way Rose fights, Rose has this beautiful footwork. And her footwork allows her, kind of similar to a spider, in a way where Rose's footwork is like her weaving a spider web around her opponent, around the octagon. she's got little strands here and there that she's leaving. And, and she's moving with this beautiful footwork. And then when her opponent bites, and maybe I'm going to step over here and I'm going to step over there, I'm going to try to catch Rose here, I'm going to try to catch her there, wham! You know what I'm saying? Rose strikes like a spider because she's weaved her opponent into a trap. And it's a beautiful thing to see. She's got a beautiful jab. When she wants to, she can sit down hard on her right hand. You know what I'm saying? But a fight that I would love to see, definitely for the belt, but even if it's not for the belt, let's say this person goes out, loses the belt to someone else. I would love to see Rose Namajunas versus Alexa Grasso at 125 pounds. So with that being said, I know Alexa's got to figure out what's going to go on. Is she going to fight Valentina in the spear at UFC Noche, or is she going to fight Manon Fiorot? I'm not really sure. But however all that's going to work out, I want to see Thug Rose versus Alexa Grasso. That's that. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the co-main event where Santiago Ponzinibbio, Pons, takes a split decision loss to Muslim Salikov. So here's another one that your boy Matt over at Matter of Fact MMA, where we doing big things. Another one I got right when I predicted Salikov. It's like I've been saying, man, to his point, Pons' chin held up in this fight, but Pons is just a shell of what he was on his rise before he got that illness due to, I believe, some sort of a staph infection in one of his legs. And it's like, bro, he's just not the same. Pons constantly moves like he's off balance. Now, to his credit, he moves a lot like he's off balance, but it still kind of works for his style. Like, he's figured out a way to kind of in an off balance way to kind of move around and still catch his opponent. So credit to him for that. I don't think there's much of a chin left. Him and his chin, they're still married, but they're on the rocks. You know what I'm saying? The chin ain't left him yet, but, one late night out of drinking, his chin might take off. You know what I'm talking about? So, with that being said, bro, good fight in a way. It had a couple of little moments. More so, Pons was just constantly off balance. And then it was more so a good fight in the first round. Second and third, it just fell off. Third, Pons pretty much wrestled and grappled and tried to control Salikov the whole round. In my opinion, I think Pons did enough to get the decision. But I feel like in round one, Salikov was definitely landing the more devastating strikes. And he was trying to land the heavier strikes. Pons, to his credit, something that was pointed out by, I believe, Dominic Cruz on the commentary, is that Ponzinibbio has a way of just staying in the pocket. Now, he's off balance in the pocket. You know what I'm talking about? But homie will stay in the pocket and fire back. So good on him. But he takes a decision loss to Salikov. Salikov might have got away with one, is all I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And I wouldn't call it a full-blown robbery, but he might have got away with one. You know what I'm saying? It might have been a little thievery. You know what I'm talking about? Could have been a little shoplifting, if you will. But nevertheless, man, that's what it is. Now, let's get on to my favorite fight. Favorite fight of the whole night. Drew Dober versus John Silva. This, of course, won fight of the night, and how could it not? Outstanding fight. John Silva comes in here on short notice. Maybe got like 10 days notice or something like that. It might not even have 10 days. He comes in to fight Drew Dober. I'd also like to mention everybody's pre-fight predictions of this card were so off because this card was like, they was just throwing fights together. Guys was falling out. Women was falling out of fights. They just pulling cats off the couch. It's like, hey, you want to fight on UFC? All right, holler at us. I mean, it was a weird card to predict because it seemed like as you're watching the card, none of the fights match what was even on the UFC's website. Anyway, Short notice, John Silva comes in there, up a weight class, you know what I'm saying? 155 pounds. Just missed weight at 145. He comes in there, and John Silva is definitely going to be somebody. It's going to be hard to say in a 155-pound division. I don't know if he's going to be in 145. Depends on if he can get his weight thing under control. But, bro, I think he's going to be a force in either division. He's out of the Fight Nerds camp along with Caio Borraio. And, bro, this dude, he's entertaining. You know what I'm saying? He says cool stuff. He kind of has a strange character, almost like he plays like a Clark Kent character to Superman in a way, and he wears his glasses, and he's very emotional. He rolls up on the announcer, I mean, almost like face-to-face, nose-to-nose with the announcer, which has to throw them off when they're trying to announce, because he's like right there all in your personal space, you know what I'm talking about? But he's very emotional, he cries, he's very humble in a way, but then he'll start barking like DMX, and he just goes ham. And he's very barbaric in the cage. And he goes in there with Drew Dober, who's a hometown favorite. And round one, Drew Dober early in that round is putting it on him. Not really putting it on him, but Drew Dober is winning, in my opinion. You know, he's staying pretty sharp. He's got some good shots. John Silva is clearly faster and is hitting with more power. But I feel like Drew Dober is definitely kind of doing his thing. That round could have went either way. I think you kind of got to lean toward John Silva. But just a wild fight, bro. Well, I guess you have to lean toward John Silva now that I think about it. Because at the very end of round one, within the last 10 seconds left in the round, John Silva catches Drew Dober with a right spinning back elbow. A right spinning back elbow. Right in this area. Completely wobbles Drew Dober. Drew Dober is on skates. You know what I'm saying? Drew Dober is trying to do his best impression of Nancy Kerrigan. He's slipping, he's falling. He look like Tanya Harding got hit with the knee, in the knee with the pipe. You know what I'm talking about? If y'all know about that. Bro, the man is out of there, and then the bell sounds. He's completely wobbled. He gets hit with a spinning back elbow. Then John Silva follows it up with a devastating combination. Round ends. Right. Bro, they go out there again. Second round, pretty good round. John Silva looks like he's in firm control, but at the same time, at a moment, Drew Dober, he basically, just to sum it up, he had moments where he was still catching John Silva. John Silva's got a heck of a chin, so he was staying in the fight, but Drew Dober was catching him. You know what I'm saying? As the fight is going on, the damage is mounting. Drew Dober has this huge cut that it's above his right eye, and you know, and also my camera might be inverted, so it might look like I'm pointing at my left eye, but it's actually my right. Bro, he's got this devastating cut here, and it gets bigger and bigger, and in the third round, it's like skin is hanging off, not over the eye, but close to it. There's all this blood. Like I said in the build up to this, he looks like a Jigsaw victim from Saw. You know what I'm saying? He looks like he done got hacked a couple of times. You know, John Silva's out here with battle axes for elbows because he hit multiple elbows on Drew Dober. A couple more spinning back elbows as well as just elbows in the pocket. The man is a savage. Drew Dober has got that dog in him, period. The dog is present in Drew Dober. Third round, referee Herb Dean had seen enough. At a point, John Silva even tried to point out to Herb Dean that, his whole eye is about to be hanging out. You know what I'm saying? And so, that was it, bro. I mean, Herb Dean had seen enough. He stops the fight. He calls the doctor in. Doctor called it off. Homie looks like he just is an extra in a horror show movie. And, you know, in a horror movie, I should say. And, bro, it was just bad. And John Silva is your winner. He is declared the winner. Outstanding fight. I'm excited for Jean Silva. I'm a huge fan now. I was already building up my fandom because I like the dude on the Contender Series. But this, I'm talking about, this is going to be another, what's homie's name? Diego Lopez. Mark my words. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's move on. What else did we have at this card? Well, right before that, we had Gabriel Bonfim go out there and beat Anjos via unanimous decision. All right, Gabriel Bonfim went out there, did work at moments, had a tremendous jab. He tried to keep Lusa at bay. But I will say, I'd sort of kind of, I was a little bit negative toward old Anj in my pre-fight video, pre-fight breakdown. Bro, Anjos definitely went out there and did his thing in the first round. Shout out to Anjos, Shout out to him, man. He went out there, he had a great first round. I think the altitude, and just fatigue started to kind of really set in about halfway through the second round on Anj, and then from there, it was only a matter of time. Gabriel Bonfim did what he did, but Anjos had some powerful shots, and of course Gabriel Bonfim, he fatigued heavily. He almost gassed out as well. Third round, both men were moving slow and trying to trade shots, but Gabriel Bonfim goes out there and gets the win. Shout out to him. Shout out to Anjos. He looked great in the first round. Now let's move on to this fight. Let's move on to Juicy J. Julian Arosa stepped in there with Christian Rodriguez. So Juicy J is such an interesting fighter because at this point the man just recently had a child, and bro, this homie is fighting like the rent is due. And who knows, the rent might be due. You know what I'm saying? You don't know Juicy J's finances. And going into a lot of his fights, I kind of have a little bit of negativity towards him, right? Because I thought he was going to end up being a better caliber fighter than what he did. But after watching this, after watching his last fight, man, shout out to him. Because Juicy J, bro, is fighting, as something flies in my eye, like the rent is due, bro. Like the man goes out there, usually hands down, and tries to rely, on his trunk movement to get out of the way of the shots. And then he just abandons that, and he's just standing there, chin up in the air, willing to take the shots, to trade the shots. I mean, he is game. And Christian Rodriguez, solid fighter. He was on like a 4-fight winning streak, maybe 5, I think 4. I mean, he's a solid fighter, usually gets the job done slowly over the course of 3 full rounds. But dude, Juicy J, what a round. What a round one by Juicy J. And he gets the job done. You know what I'm saying? Christian wobbled Juicy J multiple times. Arosa was wobbled multiple times by Rodriguez. And he hung in there and kind of stayed in the pocket. He just had a way of staying in the pocket. And even though he was eating shots, he was taking them and he was firing back. Which I don't believe that Rodriguez expected Juicy J to be able to take the damage and fire back. So he was getting caught and he was getting thrown off. And then I think he started to fatigue as the first round went on, probably due to altitude. And Juicy J put him away, dude. Outstanding. I mean, outstanding. Beat him by submission. Outstanding fight. Shout out to Julian Arosa. He goes out there, he does his thing. He continues. Now he's on the 2-fight winning streak. Shout out to him. Let's move on. Let's move on to a really weird exchange at middleweight. Abdul Razak Alhassan stepped in there against Cody Brundage. Now, I'd pick Cody Brundage to win this fight. Cody Brundage, this was ruled a no contest because he could not continue due to back of the head shots, elbows by Alhassan. Here's the thing, as I'm watching the fight play out, Alhassan, as I've said in my pre-fight to this, he packs dynamite in his hands, and he caught Brundage with a few shots. Brundage was wobbled. He was on Dream Street. He was rolling around on the ground trying to get some sort of separation. And at multiple points, Alhassan was landing elbows behind the head. Shots behind the head, or ones that were just barely You know what I'm saying? They were on that line of, was that behind the ear or was that more to the back of the head? But there was definitely at least two. I know I counted live, maybe three on the rewatch where Alhassan landed behind the head. And I was wondering when Dan Mergliata was really going to say anything. But, you know, Big Dan. Big Dan, in my opinion, how this all played out, Big Dan was not equipped to handle this. Big Dan, God bless him. Shout out to Big Dan Mergliata. He strikes me as the kind of guy that, you know, reffing is his job. And, man, he just wants to go in and have an easy shift. You know what I'm saying? Dan Mergliata one of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? If you know a guy like that, a lady like that at your job, he one of them dudes. Bro, he's a good worker for the most part. He ain't the best, but he ain't the worst. But he just want to go in and have a good shift. He don't want to do a whole lot of work. He ain't trying to do a whole lot. He just want to go and have a good shift and go home. That's who Dan Mergliata is. You know what I'm talking about? So with that being said, bro, Dan Mergliata just totally dropped the ball. He allowed these elbows to go on. Cody Brundage really got hurt badly by some of these shots. But there was a lot of legal shots as well. Dan Mergliata halts the action. Cody Brundage doesn't know where he's at. To me, he just kept getting confused, which led me... I know a lot of people think he might have been acting or he's trying to play it up. But I really think maybe he could have continued, maybe. But I think he was just so confused as to what the hell is going on that he just, he was just out of it. He never really seemed to be able to understand what had happened, illegal blows. He thought the fight had ended at one point and it was over. He didn't understand what was happening. So it was very strange. But Dan Mergliata just dropped the ball because he wasn't doing a good job of explaining to Brundage what was going on. Alhassan is just walking around stalking him in the octagon, stalking Brundage, staring at him. And Mergliata is trying to talk to Herb Dean. Herb Dean's trying to tell him, I think you're in the clear. It was just all just weird. Mergliata never, when the fight, the doctor told Mergliata to call the fight, told him Brundage didn't want to continue. Mergliata still hadn't called the fight yet. He still hadn't waved it off. He's still walking around doing something. The doctor says it again. Finally, Mergliata calls off the fight without waving his arms. Really weird stuff. Nevertheless, Brundage could not continue. It's ruled a no contest. Feel bad for Abdul. I know, I predicted him to lose the fight, but at the same time, he's had a lot of time out due to injury. He was very emotional coming into this fight, so he's got to be taking this tough. Nevertheless, man, shout out to him. Shout out to Cody Brundage. I hope Cody Brundage gets better, and then maybe they can run this one back. Let's move on. We had Joshua Van. Joshua Van versus Charles Johnson. Charles Johnson wins a performance of the night on this. Now, once again, I get burned by Charles Johnson. His last fight, I picked him to go out there and get the win. I had spoken about in the video for that fight that I used to be a really big Charles Johnson fan. I'd kind of fallen off the wagon of Charles Johnson as he just kept losing. Then I predicted him to bounce back in his last fight. He won. But on this, I really thought Joshua Van was going to get him. And Joshua Van was cruising toward a win. Gets knocked out in the third round. It's just what it is, bro. Shout out to Charles Johnson. I can't even say that I'm mad that I got this pick wrong. Because, man, Charles Johnson, I just need to quit fighting. He is that dude, man. I like him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he'll ever be champion or anything like that. But he's kind of like Bobby Green or King Green of the flyweight division. Is really what he reminds me of, and it's kind of like his space. So shout out to Charles Johnson. He gets the win. Next we had Jasmine Yazdavicius stepped in there against Fatima Klein. Fatima Klein making her UFC debut. This is what I'll say. Fatima Klein, I believe, normally fights down a weight class. This fight was at flyweight. I believe she normally fights down a weight class. Look, man, Fatima Klein looked like, this is the first time in the octagon. She's cornered Erin Blanchfield quite a few times, but man, she seemed like it took her a while to adjust, and then by the third round, she really started to adjust, and she really started to really let her hands go and do a little damage. And honestly, dude, I think down at her regular weight class, she might be somebody to watch. I'm not saying she's going to be a prospect, but she might be somebody to watch. You know what I'm saying? She did all right, but Jasmine went out there. She did her thing. You know what I'm saying? She had an awkward post-fight speech, but she did her thing. Shout out to her. She gets the win. Moving on, we had performance of the night. Won out of this fight by Montel Jackson as he goes out there and quickly knocks out Damon Blackshear. Bro, 18 seconds. That's all it took. 18 seconds. Montel Jackson goes out there, wins extra 50K, performance of the night, smooth 50K on top of whatever his win and show money was. Short notice fight. Hey, we hitting the club. You know what I'm saying? If you Montel Jackson, we hitting the club. 50 stacks, 50 racks up, plus my show and win money. We back out here. Plus it was short notice, so they probably threw in a couple extra thousand, little back room bonus for, you know what I'm saying, coming in short notice. Shout out to Montel Jackson. Did his thing. Next we have Luana Santos, who goes out there and defeats Maria Agapova. Bro, Maria Agapova just don't got it, okay? Let's just stop the experiment. Let's just stop. There was the train already been derailed, but let's just stop the whole thing. She just ain't got it, man. I mean, even when the fight was standing, she just, I don't know. She looked like a fighter that had been out of the octagon for a while. Like, it looked like she needed a full round just to get used to the timing and the movement. It just seemed like the moment just kind of engulfed her. It was too big. Luana Santos goes out there, gets a submission win. And that's that, bro. So shout out to Luana Santos. She does her thing. Next, we had Josh Frim go out there against Andre Petrosky. Andre Petrosky gets the win, as I predicted. Man, Petrosky, he's just one of those fighters, dude. When you got that extremely high level wrestling and grappling skill set, you get a guy like Andre Petrosky. Shout out to him. He goes out there, he gets a win. And then finally, we had first fight of the night. Evan Elder stepped in there with Darius Flowers. Let's just be real, dude. Darius Flowers is just like, Darius Flowers is the type of fighter that the UFC will continue until, because he's not making any money. Like, it doesn't cost Dana. Here, look, his fight purse is so little, Dana pays him out of his own pocket. Like, you know what I'm saying? Flowers walks in, Dana's like, Flowers out there? There you go. Go buy yourself something. You know what I'm saying? That's all that is. With that being said, the UFC needs fighters like him, because fighters like him, he was looking for a way out in the second round. He was completely gassed. He told his corner he was completely tired between rounds. You know what I'm saying? Commentary was talking about that. And basically, bro, he's just a guy. He's going to throw heat. He's going to throw hands. So you put him in against a fighter who can also throw hands, or fighter who can throw hands and do a club and sub and get you to the ground and submit you. He's basically a fighter that loses spectacularly, you know what I'm saying? And he's more useful to put him there with the guy you're trying to prop up and you want to make look tremendous and win. That's who Darius Flowers is. So Darius Flowers goes out there. He gets submitted in the second round. He was already looking for a way out. It is what it is. Evan Elder looked good in the fight, and that's what it was. So that was UFC Denver. It went down last Saturday. I'm not even going to say outstanding card. It had moments, but by far fight of the night, outstanding fight. Drew Dober, John Silva. That was great. Just great fight. Juicy J, Christian Rodriguez, great fight. Great round. Outstanding, bro. I enjoyed it. So that's that. We're moving on to a rough card this Saturday night. I ain't going to talk about it right now, but I'll have a little something for it in a day or two. Anyway, once again, I do want to thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.